Is this thing on? Hello, hello. How is everybody doing? I hope everyone is well. Hopefully you can hear me. My little bars are flashing back and forth with a kind of desperation. Hopefully we're live. Today we are all about gaming memories. But as always, hopefully everyone is getting hold of all their hobby gear. Ready to do some hobbying along. Because remember, we're here to do one thing and one thing only. Battle the backlog. Oh, we're also here to chat as well. Hope everyone's got water as well. It's that kind of heat here where you can see I'm dripping in it. It's that kind of heat where you're looking at your paint water pots and going, you know what? That actually that doesn't look too bad. I hope everyone is feeling good and ready to go. Today I'm not actually planning on painting. I know, shock horror. Instead, it is all about building. Because I have, speaking of tournaments, two things coming up at the end of the month. I, of course, have a game with friends doing Lord of the Rings, the strategy battle game, which I need to rebuild a force for. Say rebuild because I had a force before, sold it, and now getting back into it. And then the other one is in October. I've got one for Moonstone. If you've never played Moonstone, there's a video I can link in the description, where you can go and have a little watch. But that is the plan of action. That is what I'm going to be up to. What's everyone else going to be up to today? Anyone working on anything nice? Got any events coming up? Do let me know. Right, let's see then. What do I need to build? So, first thing I have to build is the Lord of the Rings stuff. There we go. So we've got the Witch King of Angmar. Definitely one of my favourite models in a long time. And then I also have some wargs. I've also got a warg chieftain somewhere, but I couldn't find him. He's in a ballista pack somewhere. And then in a previous video, I ended up painting a whole bunch of bases, although the footage ended up getting lost. And this is what the all those bases were for, these chaps. They're going to be nice, easy to build. I was actually thinking to myself when I was looking for them, I was like, darn it, I don't know if I have the instructions for building them, but I think even I can probably work out the bare minimums for building these bad boys. So I'll definitely be getting some of those done. My volume's lower than usual. Maybe I'm feeling in a quiet, complaintive mode. How's that? Is that any better? I've moved my microphone a little bit closer. Maybe I was talking too far away. Let's just double check it's using the correct microphone. It is. Better. Lovely. Yeah, strategy battle game. Lord of the Rings strategy battle game. My friends up in Carlisle have got really into it. Hence why my resurgence in it. If anyone else was planning on getting it, you've probably seen there that the new kit is being released. And the new kit does not include a fell beast. So I'm going to regret not having picked up enough of them, because I do still want to do the 9. I've just been seeing a guy on one of the hobby groups, though. He's converted them all. So everyone is different, which is pretty awesome. ATP, what are you up to this evening? Have you got some nice things to work on? Do let me know. And obviously, I've popped in the chat as well, the Discord link. So if anyone wants to post pictures as they're working along, please do feel free. It's always nice to know that other people are hobbying at the same time as you. Some of the new starter boxes, getting starter boxes looked good. They did indeed look good. I've just realised I'm not logged in as me. Yeah. If you're going to go for one of the starter boxes, which one do you think you'd go for? Anyone's thinking about Lord of the Rings? Oops. Right. What else have I got under this table? I have loads. I was also suckered in for Moonstone. That's very glary. So I picked up not one, not two, but 3 boxes of it. Because anytime I play something, I want everything. The only thing I couldn't bring myself to buy was there was one other starter box set. And the problem with it was I already have one of the models out of it. I backed their Kickstarter to get one of their models, Enraged Diana it's called. And I didn't want to duplicate it. I also didn't want one of the other models. So I reckon I'm probably going to go with the easiest model first. Well, I say easiest, biggest model first. Waiting for the dwarves. Nice. I would be very tempted by the... Is it Billy Connolly? Is Billy Connolly's King of the Dwarves? On his big pig? That's a good model. It's a nice big box. Lots of padding. I don't know if I've ever seen something so well padded. Little see-through stand. Let's see, is that upside down? I hope it's not. On OBS, it's back to front, but I'm hoping that means it's the right way around for you guys. Vespa. So with every character you have a special trait. So these are the special moves that you can do. So if you're doing Falling Swing as an attack, then you can do this instead. And this is its damage. So not terrible damage, not amazing damage. This person can give +1 melee stat and evade stat. This character cannot be targeted by melee attacks and does not benefit from cover. Can throw a javelin. Decent health. If the character deals pierce melee damage, include +2 damage, which conveniently their special rule is as well. I realised that I bought plenty of stuff for this, but I didn't actually buy the decks that I would need to play the game, so that's going to need to be another trip at some point. Oh, that's cool. I've not had a hex base like that before. There you go. It's built. Job done. Well done, lads. So, let's see. My first model for Moonstone. They do an upgrade kit where you can get these wings as see-through. Which I do plan maybe on getting. Maybe. I'm not sure. Details on that's really nice. That light seems awfully bright. Let's tilt it that way a bit. They've got texture on the individual eye, which is pretty cool. 1 million legs to add. Nice. I actually thought these models were metal. Hello, Stephen. Nice to see you again. I'd imagine you're probably finished all your skeletons at this point. I'm building Moonstone and Lord of the Rings. That is my plan for this evening. How about yourself? Now, if I was a real consummate professional, I would also record some of this footage for my next video, but I'm not going to. I just plan on building this model. What's that? Scalpel. Lovely. And do I have any sniffers? Apparently not. Makes you wonder what I used them for and then didn't put them back. I've got like 3 pairs. They must be somewhere. Right, I guess I'm using this for just now. Pretty much done all of the skeletons. I will disappear in a bit, as I haven't eaten yet. Just thought I would say 5 first. Oh, thank you for dropping in. Oh, this is always a worrying thing. I'm definitely not going to snap the legs off, but I reckon this big chunk can probably come off. Yeah. Does anyone actually use... I actually have this bad boy. Does anyone actually use it for its intended purpose? I was going to say Lord of the Rings, the Games Workshop cleaning tool. Ooh, that's handy. That's not the Games Workshop cleaning tool. That is just a scalp. Do you know what? I should probably get a better storage solution at some point. I swear it's in here somewhere. I'm not entirely... Ah, there it is there. Does anyone use this? It's the Games Workshop tool for cleaning off mould lines. I'm not a massive fan of it myself, but what I will say is if you're ever too heavy-handed taking off stuff like mould lines on, you know, hair and stuff like that, that's good because unlike with the scalpel, you're less likely to accidentally shave it all off. Right, clippers, are you definitely not in here? No. Okay, fine. I didn't want you anyway. Oh, well, I did just find this. I've been missing that since the last stream. There you go. Clearly that's my dumping ground. I'll keep that for later. He's back of a blade instead of Games Workshop one. Yeah. The only thing I've done before is I actually have 2 of these. I have one which always has a blunt blade on it, and I have one that always has a sharp blade on it, and one time I got the 2 mixed up and went straight into my thumb. Thankfully there's always super glue handy, so I just super glued it. Right, what are these attachment points like? Circles. Oh no, that'll be them. Okay, cool. So let's whip that off. If you're watching and you haven't got something to do, go grab it. We will still be here when you are done hobbying. And if you want to put progress pictures in the Discord so we can share it all at the end of the stream, that'd be cool. If you haven't tried Moonstone yet, definitely watch a video about it. It's a lot of fun, especially if you're a fan of Mordheim back in the day. You take a bunch of D4s, you throw them up in the air, pretending that they're caltrops. And where they land and what they land on is where the location of the moonstones are. So if it lands on a D3, for example, it's pretty deeply buried. If it's on a D1, then it is fairly lightly buried, and your characters can go and scoop them up. And the name of the game is to have the most moonstones at the end. Although there are other scenarios as well. But I, of course, have played just 2 games. 1 practice half game, and then 1 actual game, and I signed up for a tournament. Because I don't know about anyone else, but it's the only way to guarantee that you're going to get a bunch of games in. So let's see. Oh, someone's off to Bloodstock. Very nice. Although, if I'm honest with you, I looked at the lineup for Bloodstock and I wasn't 100%. I think I recognised 3 names. I don't want to sound old, but I think the scene's moved on without me. But yeah, the rule is that you need your 8 characters, I think it is. So I've got an Enraged Diana model, which was part of the Kickstarter. It's just a cooler looking model of the original one. I've got Vespa, and I've got 2 expansion pockets. Good to go. So I will definitely read over the rules. But does anyone else do that? Does anyone else use tournaments as basically a way of learning to play? Or just getting games in? I think the busier you get, definitely the more useful tournaments become in that sort of aspect of just getting a bunch of people that want to play you and getting to play all day. I hate binning these kind of things. I don't know if you can see that there, but it says Vespa. Maybe I'll need to find some kind of rubble. Because a Vespa's a car, I believe. You can tell I'm definitely a mechanic. But today's topic is all about gaming memories. I'm trying to remember back to my first sort of memory of... Cool, see you in a bit. My first sort of memory of gaming, the first box set I ever had was definitely the Bretonnians versus Lizardmen, which I think someone said to me is 3rd or 4th edition, but I could be completely wrong there. And I had the Lizardmen, my brother had the Knights, although funnily enough now I would really like some Knights to be able to paint those, to do some freehand heraldry. I've got some Pegasus Knights by Highland Miniatures after our conversation last time, and they are pretty nice 3D sculpts. Does anyone remember their first gaming memory? One of my other ones was, I remember we were meant to be, there was something happening at school, primary school. I don't remember what. And I remember, I think we were moving house or something like that. And for whatever reason, we couldn't go. So my dad bought me Nork Dead Orc, the Ogren Imperial Guard bodyguard character. This isn't the one that was like made with the old chainmail or anything like that. This was slightly newer than that. The one with the huge chunky back plates. And that was a well good model. This is back in the days where all of the prices were based on letters of the alphabet. And I want to say he was an E or an F. But to be honest with you, I can't even remember if low was cheap or if high was cheap. I assume A was the cheapest, and then it moved up from there. However, that would make E very expensive. My Vampire in Mordheim stayed with the same starting stats after a year of gaming. He did have just about every upgrade, though. I do like that. I actually bought... There's 2 box sets I'm buying just because I love the models. One is the Crimson Court for the Underworlds, I think it's called, the Warhammer game. And the other one, I don't know if anyone's seen the new Witch Hunter models. They are nice. To go along with the Cursed City models, the I want to say father and daughter models from the Cursed City, but it's another box of Witch Hunters. My friend, or should I say Mortal Enemy, Segregate Mini Quest is doing some exciting stuff with more time. But you'll need to follow his channel to see more. But if I can get those painted up, maybe I can send them over when he does his first battle report. Having said that, I was kind of hoping to trick people into going to Warhammer World. I was trying to buy Golden Demon tickets, but it turns out everyone else was as well. Did anyone else try and get hold of some Golden Demon tickets? Did anyone succeed? It was absolutely ridiculous. I went to both of the sales, had 3 devices open on 3 different networks, and occasionally it would pop up and say tickets, and then they would immediately disappear out your cart as you were trying to buy them. Madness. You just know a lot of it's going to be bots. Scottish when I sold my more time Witch Hunters, I needed the cash and got 60 quid for them. Yeah, I sold all my more time as well. I think I needed them for a deposit, like a rental deposit. And yeah. And the thing is I think at this point, don't try and collect those models. Just buy them. Just buy the new 3D sculpts. Other people have made sculpts of it, and they're really nice. Listening to Gortrix and Felix, I'm up to book 4 now, Demon Slayer, and they keep talking about all of the different sort of factions. So you've got like Reichsland, you know, the sort of pretty boys with the guns, and then you've got like the Middenheimers with the big hammers and whatnot. And I just keep going, those models, I used to have them all. Still have the plastics given humans. You know what? The models for more time that I got the most for were the casualties of all things. People were paying ridiculous money for them on eBay. I think it was like £10 per corpse. I think I might even still have one of the human corpses somewhere. It's one of those things is you never know what's going to be big. My friend Chris does it in a very good manner. He just never sells anything. I mean, if you've got the room for it, grand. I loved More Time. But More Time was, I want to say, in my early teens. But they were absolutely great. And I remember how excited everyone got. You would be reading the Town Crier. If you haven't read the Town Crier and you're interested in More Time, there's a website. I'll find it and I'll stick it in the description. And it has every single one of the Town Criers free to download. Which is incredibly cool. But it's one of those things, isn't it? Is it nostalgia? Is that what makes it good, or was it genuinely good? I always think that the reason that a lot of these games are so popular and the reason they're so good is because of the huge amount of lore. Things like the Town Crier that made More Time just so special. I bought Frostgrave, I played Frostgrave, and it's a fine system, but I don't know, it just never got my gears going as good as More Time did. You could make full little ward bands. You could have ogres, you could have trolls, and there's fans that have made like even more of it. But my favourite scenario, my favourite one is Monster Hunter. Which is funny because it's also one of my favourite video games. I really like Monster Hunter. The board game's coming for it soon, actually, from Steamforge Games. And everyone thinks the game's going to be bad because of Horizon Dawn being not a great board game. But I do not care. I will have a Rathalos model. I don't believe there's a Rathian model, though. However, there is 2 Rathaloses, so I'll probably paint one as a Rathian. But yeah, basically there was a rogue monster in the sort of the More Time place. Whoever did the most wounds on it, would sort of get the win. And just like that. I think anytime you have that kind of scenario where you're both against each other, but there's also like a common threat, I really enjoy those scenarios. Because you're trying to mess each other over, but if you focus too much on killing each other, you're definitely going to get yourself killed. There's a scenario like that in, what's it called? Wrath of Kings Armada, where there's a Kraken, and the Kraken does tons of damage if it moves over you. And you're trying to do loads of damage to it whilst fighting off your enemy forces as well. Still got a bunch of that to build as well. Need another tournament for that soon. Because that is one of the reasons I absolutely love having tournaments. Motivation to get stuff done. I think I have a human corpse. I'll have to look. I assume that you mean in More Time. There's no guarantee, but I'm hoping that you mean in More Time. But yeah, I had this gorgeous High Elf Lord, and that model was just fantastic for using as the monster, and then we swapped it out for giants and whatnot. We even did an arena where we did like we all had giants, so we had bought about 6 or 7 giant models, and then we also had like the Manticore model and just all these different monsters that we just had fighting each other, which was a lot of fun. But we were talking about tournaments, and one of my favorite memories of like the most absurd cheating that I've ever seen at a tournament was my friend was running a Bretonian force, which at the time was already pretty insane to do. because the Bretonnians hadn't sort of been given an upgrade. And he was doing pretty darn well considering. And then he came up against a dark elf team. And they'd taken loads of repeater crossbows. Now, repeater crossbows didn't do a massive amount of damage. They weren't particularly powerful. They got 2 shots, which was pretty unheard of. So if you had a big wall of these guys, it was just ridiculous how many shots they could put out. But let's face it, against 1-up armor saves, they weren't going to do much. They were only strength 3 versus toughness 3 or 4. And then obviously he had that 2+ armor save. And his opponent blatantly told him, oh, my guys have got this special rule. And the special rule was very good. It's a magic spell. And it would make your leadership stat your strength stat. So if you had a leadership of 9, it became a strength of 9. So going from strength 3 to strength 9. Now, it doesn't matter if you don't know the system or not, because at the end of the day, you can tell if something's 3 times stronger, it's probably going to be better at killing knights. And the way it worked is basically your strength also came with a modifier to armor saves. So with strength 9 shots, they just went straight through the armor. And I just remember being so mad because it was after I'd come over to see how the battle was going. Or after the battle had even finished. And the organisers didn't do anything about it, which was BS. I remember being frustrated at that tournament because I'd taken a sneaky list, because you give your opponents the list in advance, but they don't know your dirty tricks. They can look at your list and not really know what you're up to. And I ended up having to play the same person twice, so they knew my dirty tricks the second time round. So I crushed them the first battle, and then the second one I lost. That was also a funny tournament because I ended up playing 3 of the 4 people that I'd travelled to the tournament with, I ended up playing against. And it wasn't a small tournament, which was pretty frustrating. Again, tournament randomizers didn't care. Thankfully, that doesn't happen often. Most of the time, you can go up to the organizer and go, hey, I either know this person or I play this person all the time. Then again, I do like it when tournaments have grudge matches. That always makes me laugh. So you can basically, if you've got someone that you like to play against, especially if you only get to see them at tournaments, that's always a good time to sort of get a match in. There's a guy I like called Daniel, who is an extremely good player at pretty much all Mantic games, and I always enjoy playing him. They're always close matches, but he does win more than I do, sad times. What about everyone else? Are we fans of tournaments? Do we go to them to build our models, paint our models? Give you any sort of motivation? Whenever I've moved, people have always said, oh, you're moving to a different city. How are you going to get to know people? Gaming clubs and tournaments. Doesn't matter where you go, there's always going to be someone looking to play you at something. It does, however, mean that you've played pretty much every one of the miniature games. You get to learn them, you get to play them a few times, and then you move on to the next game. Or you become addicted to it, like I am with Armada and Dreadball, and just buy everything. Although, at this point, it looks like I have everything for Dreadball and they're not releasing anything else. So, I guess on that front, it's good. But I guess that brings up an interesting question. Do you play defunct systems? If something doesn't have tournaments, if it's no longer supported, do you play it? Get doubles. Do you mean doubles of models to play as? Or do you mean get doubles as in get to doubles tournaments? I'm curious though. I'm going to make this my poll of the first poll of the stream. Do you play discontinued... Oh, I'm checking it out and spelling discontinued now. Do you play dead games? Do you play unsupported games? What do you think? Do people play unsupported games, or is the game still got to be alive and kicking for you to want to play it? Is that reason we're so flighty? There was a guy near me who was selling off a seismic ton of... That's not what I want. Not the Humbrol hobby cement. Wrong stuff. Okay, so I didn't find what I was looking for, but I did find something handy. There's my clippers. I also picked up at the weekend green stuff UV resin and a little torch to go with it. So I'm looking forward to having some fun with that. I've got the Vallejo stuff. It's pretty good, but it's a bit fiddly to use. So I'm hoping that having the UV torch will make my life really easy. Is there really no glue on that tree? Oh, there's my other scalpel. Handy. It's not Humbrol. What was I looking for? Yoo-hoo glue. That was it. Picked up a bunch of Yoo-hoo glue. I've played Warhammer Fantasy Band longer unsupported compared to it when it was a live game. Oh, that's a shame. I say it's a shame that it's discontinued, that you loved it so much, not that it's a shame that you play it. That's awesome. Oh, I also treated myself at the weekend to some super glue activator. What I was curious about, though, is it actually has 2 pots. Oh, no, it doesn't. It's got a squirty bottle in the lid. That's a big bottle. Oh, my goodness. I think it was the army painter stuff I've used of this before. Yes, I can feed 2 teams. I've bought 2 of everything for Imperial Salt in case someone wants to use the same stuff in the skirmish. Nice. I've got the CIS for the for that game. Wait, hang on a minute. Imperial Salt. Imperial Salt's the board game one, I think. If you actually mean 2 of everything, if you mean 2 of every single model, that is insane. There are so many expansions for that game. I hope you mean 2 of, like, you've got like 2 factions rather than every single model. That'd be crazy. Yeah, I was getting confused with Legion. That's what I was getting confused with. I'm sorry, Vespa. I don't know where my glue is. Which is unfortunate considering we're doing with a live stream. But I'm afraid you're going to need to go back in the baggie. Get in the bag. Boop. I'm sure I'll find the glue as we go along. Or, you know, it will wait until the next stream and then I'll find the stuff I'm looking for and be able to do it the stream afterwards, which is entirely possible at this point. Let's get the hobby stuff over there. What are people saying? The reason I don't get rid of anything is it doesn't matter what rule set, etc. you play, you'll need one other person to play it. True. Absolutely true. I wish I lived and breathed by that mantra, but I don't. Now I've got a place to store stuff. I'm hoping that I can live more by that mantra. I've managed to acquire the 2 Velox windows that I need to do the loft. I've now got all the boarding materials, all the planks of wood. It's so close. You can almost taste it. Now I just need to like get someone to stay still long enough to come and actually do the work and put the 2 windows in, and then I can start converting it properly. I'm so excited. But yeah. Now I've got that space, nothing can stop me. Now, do I build this properly, or do I try and convert it like the guy I saw online doing, because it looked amazing? Well, let's cut it all out, clean it, and then it's then we'll see. It's funny. I've got an electric Dremel. I've got an electric hand drill, like pin drill, for doing the pinning now. Is there no such thing as an electric pair of clippers? I'll buy it. Send it to me. I guess you could use a Dremel, but you're likely to cut it off. One of my friends uses garden shears. What an absolute monster. I've got 3 3D printed sort of models for Fell Beasts, and I've got 2 official ones. So I'm still 4 short, but I'm keeping an eye on eBay. I'm hoping that a metal one comes up for like a reasonable price, because I think there's 2 other metal ones that you can get. I think one is like the Witch King, and then the one is just a generic Fell Beast. So I'm hoping those come up for sale for a decent price. And then I just need 2 more to make all 9. I played the list using all 9 on Tabletop Simulator and lost terribly. But it looked amazing, and it made me want them even more. Even more. Chris says, Guild Ball, old versions of War Machine, X-Wing, Malifaux, play whatever version you want. Ah, I have Guild Ball. We even painted some last stream when I'd run out of Lord of the Rings. And now I've found even more Lord of the Rings. I was really happy with how this plate came out. I even did blood in the grooves and everything. I can't say I've ever painted little vegetables before. So that was the new one. I also started the little otter dude. For the cooks, I managed to also get the 2 limited edition models for the cooks. So I just need 1 more. There's a limited edition Wellington, the Gordon Ramsay sort of style guy. Still need that guy to complete the set. I'm sorry, I can't agree with you with War Machine. There are a few games that I actually dislike, and that one I just couldn't face. It's too hard. Too much going on. I'm a simple man. Play whatever version you've got. Truer words. Truer words. I'm trying to think what the oldest game system I've got. I've still got the D&D set that was a black box with red felt on the inside and came with the lead models. I painted the Hobgoblin. He's upstairs somewhere. But I painted him for a challenge a while back. And you know what? The models were still pretty good. But that's probably the oldest game system I have. I don't know what version of... what version... He's got 2 necks. I'm guessing I'm not meant to have cut one of those out. I don't know which version of D&D that is, but that would be my oldest game, I think. Next up would be probably something like Space Hulk. And I managed to buy Space Crusade, but that was obviously not mine originally. Is the board game? Yeah, it does have a light war game mode. Yeah, I did buy 2 of absolutely everything. I am crazy. Oh my lord. I can't even comprehend how many models that is. And I appreciate with war games, I mean, anyone that's like plays 40k or Warhammer Fantasy or Kings of War or whatever, we're going, oh, it's not that many. No. But these are individual ballista packs. So imagine buying that many like heroes from like 40k. You absolutely crazy. A model I was always tempted to buy from that range, but I never got around to buying, was definitely Jabba the Hutt. I just like the idea of that model. I also love the idea of there was a Jedi Hutt. And apparently he was one of the fastest Jedi. I'm loving the idea of this big slug just zooming around using the force. Sounds absolutely hilarious. But then again, there was also an evil one of Yoda's race. And I don't mean Grogu. It's weird how Yoda's race still isn't named. Unless it came out and I've missed it. Ah, have your plans changed from the video of your life plans? Any other crazy ideas? Nope. Still, well, it changed a little bit. Instead of using insulation foam for the actual walls, which was my initial plan to save on money, a friend pointed out that it would be cheaper to buy wooden slats, and so sort of, you know, put slats up the inside, so it would kind of look like, I don't know, the inside of a ship, sort of, like loads of, you know, like, not thin, but like, you know, a couple of inches of pine, and they all slot together all the way up the trusses. So that's quite nice. And yeah, just need the windows in and all of that can be done. It's funny how time and money is always the main thing. But the dream is still there. The dream has not died. 2 nice big windows, plenty of light. Glorious. It's interesting computer games, James says. It's interesting computer gamers will play old games with no issue, but tabletop gamers seem to get turned off as soon as they hear it's not available anymore. That's a fair point. It'd be interesting to see I was going to say, because people still sell their stuff when the game is declared as extinct, because you've got people like that guy who famously burned his dark elf army with like an aerosol and a lighter, didn't he, when they announced that the end of Warhammer Fantasy Battles. I was going to say, like, do people, is it just new players? But maybe that's the problem. New players not coming into the game. But if you've got a solid fan base, you wouldn't have thought that would happen. I do think that if there's an active sort of tournament scene, that definitely helps. 1, because of exposure, and 2, because you can guarantee, as I said, getting some games, which is why I'm a big fan of tournaments. Not even the competitive side, just the knowing that you're going to get 4 games in a day. That's a good point. Why do video games keep going? Because even when it gets difficult, when you're starting having to like get lands, but I wonder if it's to do with space. Like if you know that you're not going to get as many games from an old game as much, and the army's going to take up space, that causes you to sell it, or you sell it so that you can get money for the latest hot game. But no, an interesting point. A good example of that is I wanted to play Age of Empires 2. Went online, and in a few seconds I'd found a game via LAN. Not true LAN, obviously. We had to set up our own server, but still, similar. But I believe it was yourself, James, that said you had a tournament coming up. Has that happened for Warhammer Fantasy Battle? You said you had a tournament coming? It's pretty cool, if so, to know that it's still alive and kicking. I mean, look at Blood Bowl. The community kept Blood Bowl going for so long that Games Workshop changed their mind and decided to bring it back out again. But why did Blood Bowl survive when Mordheim didn't? Interesting question. Maybe Blood Bowl ported over to video game easier, and so that's why it stayed popular. Kevin says, would you not say that usually down to the game stores in a way they obviously want people to buy their new versions, and since people usually go for the competition, they don't play old versions? True. Absolutely true. At least part of the reason has got to be down to stores. I mean, this is the thing that's you know, sort of going around YouTube at the moment. You know, the videos Starting off with Discourse miniatures, Discourse something, then moving to Blackjack. Blackjack did a very emotional video about how, you know, his revenue was down, his supporters were down, and part of it was because he stopped making Games Workshop videos regularly. Now, I'm not going to make fun of them, because anyone that saw my latest video, it literally has a picture of the Games Workshop logo versus PlayStation 4 in it. Because I kept getting distracted, and it was just so much easier to play a games console than it was to record and edit a video. Which I don't know if anyone saw it. But here is a close-up. I think I might have the depth perception on my webcam wrong for the normal stuff, because that's come out beautifully. Look at that. That's a nice camera. But yeah, if you've not seen the artwork for it, if you just Google Death Guard versus Tau, and I give it a good old college try at trying to replicate it. And you know what? By the time I'd spent so much time on this guy, converting him to look like Typhus, I really regretted gluing him in. I wish I'd magnetized him. I might change my mind before I paint him and just stick something in, whip him off, and then magnetize him, because he came out so nice. We've got the little guy grinning out the corner. We've got the dead guy, the guy charging in, the guy getting crushed. And then we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 Death Guard tournament, and not Terminators. And then we've got the 2 Blight drones. The only thing that I need, well, the 2 things that I need is, one, I don't have a Hellbrute, and I need a Hellbrute arm. I don't know if the kit comes with spares. I need a Hellbrute arm there, and then I need some kind of bugs to go here. So if anyone knows anything like little bug-like things that I could use here, because Typhus has these like beehives, and they've got these horrible gnat things floating around, and that's what I need. But really happy with how that came out, and I'm really looking forward to, after I've painted it, just peeling this off. Because just imagine how nice it's going to be under there. It's still going to have that nice shiny black effect underneath there. It's going to look good. But yeah, that's coming up later. Do a video on that. But yeah, my goodness, it was time consuming. So Warhammer Fantasy Battle is obviously one of the main ones that people talk about, because it was, you know, a lot of people's first. But can anyone think of older gaming systems? Is there any older gaming systems? Battletech? Is that the one with robots? I think Battletech's quite old. What is everyone up to? You know, Stephen's working on some skeletons. What is everyone else working on? Have we got something that we're hobbying away to? If someone has, let's say, in theory, an Azog, you know, Legion for the Hobbit miniature game, maybe they should be working on it at the same time. Theoretical example, of course. Of course. Oh, James says, double tournament first weekend in September. It's in Inverness. Probably worth getting in a few games. Nice. I'm afraid Inverness is a bit far. I'm still working on my Slaves to Darkness. I've got... I think I'm 2 behind now on Warcry, because I really like Warcry. I love how fast it is. I love how ridiculous it is. And I love how the fact that it's competitive, but you can't take it too seriously, because you know that the very next turn something could go so badly wrong for you that you would just lose. And I think I need games like that. I need games that, you know, you just can't get too stressed over. But I keep buying all the war bands because I can use them in my Be'lakor, Sons of Be'lakor army for Age of Sigmar, but also just to make a really cool Chaos Warbands army for Oldhammer. Because, you know, Forge World said it's coming back. And you just know they're going to bring out Cathay, Kislev. What was the other one called? Ainu? the Indian-based one. But apparently, you know, Total War has done very well for them. Is anyone else looking forward to, I want to say it's called Immortal Empires, where they combine all 3 maps? Hello, Lord Thoric. I hope the wee one is doing well. I hope you haven't had to go in the shed, because if your shed is as hot as my attic is, I was drenched just from looking for these models. That's the real reason I gave up looking for the Warg Chieftain and Diana and Ballista, because it was just too hot. But then again, I come from a country that is, what is it, 10 degrees Tapsaf is how you define the weather as hot. I really need to work out how many points of these bad boys I've got. Oh yeah, I couldn't find the other. I've got all the metal models as well. I've got a bunch of spectres, some wraiths, and some of the dead marsh dudes. But they're pretty much built. My plan for either next week's video or the video afterwards is 5 styles of painting to sort of do mass armies. So, you know, you got your traditional ones like Ghost, and then you've got a couple of curveballs in there as well. I'm going to do that on this army. The only model I'm really missing is I need there's this vampire bat dude for Angmar, and his name's something like Gulvar. He's like a weird vampire dude, and I want him as well, because I want to do him probably as the stone style, so like as a stone gargoyle. The other option, of course, was to do that to my Kings of War Armada models, and like do one army as ghosts, but I really like my ship models and I don't want to do it. I often wonder with people like, you know, Ninja and Miniac, etc., when they do all these single models for videos. I'm like, what, do you just have like like one model for every faction? You buy a whole box and you paint one model of it. I want everything painted. I've just realised I must be missing a sprue. Because there's someone missing from this. The Witch King's missing. Whoops. Kim says that's badass. I mean, it might be this or it might be the artwork. If it's the artwork, thank you. I plan on doing a couple of them. Because I don't know about you, but I always end up with random boxes of models and pieces, and I never know what to do with them, and I never want to bin them. So then they just sit there, and I thought to myself, oh, you know what? You could use them in dioramas. Like that was a spare Festus, Lord Festus model for Death Guard. I was never going to use it, because you can't run 2 of them. Heck, you can't even run 1 of them anymore in the current rules. And so I thought, this is cool. Another one I want to do is I really want to make a timeline, because for most armies I've got 1 model just sort of left over from each army. So it'd be quite cool to do a timeline of, you know, I played this model and I played this model. A video I really enjoyed recently was from Boyle's Hobbies, and he did a thing where he took Space Marines versus Imperial Legion versus like oldie knights versus World War II troops, and did this diorama. If you've not watched the video, it's very funny. Used LEDs and stuff to make it so like they were shooting each other with blasters. And you know, if his diorama is to be believed, you know, the Imperium might actually not be quite up to the Star Wars Imperiums. Turns out stormtroopers have excellent shots when they're against someone that has no helmet on. I have some of the greatest armor ever made by man. Are you going to wear your helmet? No. I'm painting some ATST and ATDP for Imperial. So, been experimenting with tea leaves and herbs for basic materials. Super impressed with how they turned out. I'm doing the sort of, the 101, so basing 101. And in the basing 101 video, what I've done is I'm basically making a little skit about, what can you steal from the kitchen. And obviously there's baking powder. And then what I've got is, it's like, and then apologise to your mum for stealing her baking powder by making her a cup of tea. But then forget to give her the tea bag. And then it's like someone handing a tea with just milk in it. And then sneaking off with the tea bag, because you're absolutely right. Tea leaves make a great substitute. Although, that video has nothing on Guy from Midwinter Minis, who did an absolutely hysterical one where he just basically took anything he could find in the kitchen and blended it, and then used it as basing material. So he ground up pasta, he ground up coffee grounds, all these ridiculous things, and then turned them into basing materials. If you've not watched that, it's definitely worth a watch. I can't remember what he called it. It was like 20 things to use for basing, or 20 cheap things to use for basing. And it was good. For me, I have let's see if this is top heavy. I might regret this. I have a nice big box I got from Hobbycraft here in the UK. I got the big rocks, I've got the little rocks, and I just fire them on their base, and it's good to go. Oh, what wonderful mould lines. That's another video that's upcoming. 101 of cleaning models. How much I hate mould lines. Worst mistake I've ever made when cleaning. I'm sure other people will have stories about what terrible things they've done to models. The worst one I've ever done was there was this. He was from the Turmacan Forge World campaign, and he was called something Maggot Rock King. And he came on this weird dog mutated thing. And I went around and was cleaning off all the flash when I realised that I wasn't cleaning off flash, I was cleaning off models' details. Like there was pus boils and there was little gnats all over him, and I was dutifully sitting there cleaning it all off the model when I really shouldn't have been. Okay, I thought I was just missing the I thought I was just missing the Witch King to go on top. I don't even have the body for this model. Okay, you will also need to be put aside and finished at a later date. So let's get you out of the way. And move on to the one I really, really don't want to do. 36 orcs. Well, I picked these up for a really nice price at a war boot. And you know what? They're pretty nice models. I'm not going to say no to those. Orenin orcs. Although I've made a horrible mistake because in one of the videos I based every single one of these models and I filled in the slot. So I'm going to have to cut off every single slot of base on these guys. Ooh, now do I try and cut them off when they're on the sprue? No. But that's my worst cleaning mistake. I also built one of the biggest models for Forge World. It was a Chaos Emperor Dragon. And there was something that went wrong with that. I think I might have put the wings on the wrong way round. or one of them at least, because I remember holding it for so long that by the time I let go of it, I realised that the wing was on backwards. I can't be the only one that's done something really daft like that. It says, I want to start on Jabba next week, but only recently got a wet palette and it confuses me still. Any pointers? Firstly, always make sure you're using clean water. You do not need to use the deionized water. The reason it needs to be clean water is, now I try not to do it, but even I occasionally will lick my brush before I put it back in there. Well, not lick on it. Let's not go crazy. I'm not like going, delicious lollipop. But the problem is if you do that, you get nasty bacteria in the water, and it all goes fusty on your wet palette. So if you're a brush licker, please clean your brush before you use it on your wet palette, or you get a horrible one. When you're closing it, don't close it fully. Leave a little bit of a gap. Otherwise, if you're planning on doing lots of painting, what happens is your paints on top get really, really oversaturated. So when you come back, they're just runny messes. And you also, depending on how hot it is where you are, you'll also need to top it up occasionally. You can have too much water. If it's like coming out over the top of the oily, plasticky topper, you've got too much water. But apart from that, if it's just in the sponge, go crazy. The idea is the water will soak up from below and permeate through that waxy coat and keep your paints nice and moist. Oh, and don't use metallic pigments. If the metallic pigments get into your sponge underneath, then it's horrible because you'll just get sparkly red and sparkly pink for ages. Unless, of course, you want sparkly red and sparkly pink, in which case, go crazy. I've got the red grass one. Mrs. bought it for me for one birthday or another. I've also got the red grass paint holder, which I won at a tournament. My proudest tournament, speaking of course, hobby memories, which is the topic of this, my proudest hobby moment is definitely going to the first ever tournament of Kings of War, Armada, and winning it. Even though I had never played. I played 5 games that day as my first 5 games and won every single one. Has anyone got a particular tournament that they remember as notable? You know what? That was a good tournament. One I quite enjoy that I try and go to as often as I can is a Vanguard one called Border Skirmish. And the lovely guy who runs it, Sharad, makes you toast. And he just brings you toast to the table throughout the day as you're playing your games. It's absolutely great. I do find that Mantic tournaments are pretty good for that. You always end up with a goodie bag, and the goodie bag tends to be, you know, as much as the tickets were. If you ever want to run a tournament for a Mantic game, get in contact with them. They are always very generous with their prize support. All the mold lines. So many mold lines. That's the one thing is it worth buying the new box set just to get the new Gothmog model for? I'm going to guess it will probably get released at some point separately. But the question is, when? trying to think of one of the most ridiculous hauls I ever had at a tournament. I remember the entry ticket was like £5 and I came away with about 150 worth of swag. That was a good day. One of the strangest experiences I've had was going to a bolt action tournament. That got intense very quickly. I had the Russians and I went in normal clothes, expecting a normal day. And, well, let's just put it this way. There were several people there who took their gaming very seriously and dressed very authentically. And no, it wasn't the Americans. It was, of course, the Germans. And, of course, they weren't German. No German would do that. I appreciate being in character, but really. One of the funny things that's happened to me, and it's happened to me several times, is I've submitted my scores, and then when they've been giving out prizes, I've had it where several of my opponents go up, and they're like third or second, and I'm like, huh, that's funny. I beat them. How did they beat me? And I went up, and this happened 3 times with a particular company, and twice on the trot. And I went up and was like, sorry, just to double check. And then it turns out they would miss off entire sections of your points. And I was like, oh. I was doing a video on one tournament. I've got all the footage. And then we've got the prize giving at the end. And I recorded that as well. And then realised that, no, I actually got second rather than not placing. So it meant the end of the video doesn't really exist because... it wasn't until after all the recording was done that I realised that there'd been a mistake. Has anyone had that? The points suspiciously don't add up. One of the things that I always remember about gaming, especially if I was going into Glasgow, and there's always a Greggs near the Games Workshop. Maybe that's just in Scotland where there's a Greggs on every corner. There'd always be a smell of sausage rolls in the shop. One of those things is all companies go through changes, but I remember you used to be able to go in, if you spent £100, they'd give you these big bags. This was back when Games Workshop had the clear bags with like Games Workshop sort of logos over it, and yeah, they would just give you bags of blisters, and I just had loads of old blisters that I sold over time. You'd get free paintbrushes. And then you got cool stuff like limited edition prints. My dad still has one of the Mordheim prints that was, you could only get it if you got, I think it was 25 skulls. And skulls were like, I can't remember, one skull every £20 or one skull every £50. I think I still have one of the bags somewhere. It was one of the skull prizes, and it was, you know, a backpack with a great big Imperial Eagle on it. One of the saddest moments I have ever had in gaming was I was playing second table. So this is the second last game, and this was the finals for Vanguard, and you had to swap warbands. And I had my second warband under the table where I thought it was safe, and one of the guys from the store was walking around filming it, and he moved the chair, lost his balance, and stepped right into the box under the table. And I needed that for the next game. He was so very, very apologetic. Bought me a bunch of models as an apology. But it meant the photos from that final were loads and loads of proxies rather than my painted army. I didn't win though. That was a defeat at the hands of Daniel M. I want to say that was the unkillable undead. Every time you put them down, they would just get back up again. When people have those gimmick t-shirts where it can play music, I always think, oh, that'd be a good song for any undead player. I get knocked down, but I get up again. These are definitely some of those models where you're just looking at the detail and you're going, it almost looks unfinished. We've got like plate, 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 then a mould line, and then just flat. Shows you how the quality of models has changed. But, you know, on the tabletop, at that distance, still very nice. If you never played the Shadow of War games, where you're, I want to say Talon, you're an elf you're a human ranger who's got combined with an elf lord, and you're sneaking around Mordor, getting orcs. My wife is always in stitches when I play that because all the orcs have very distinctive accents. Oh, you! Get over here, you mug! I'm gonna find ya. When I do. Again, I'm most intrigued by is the Golem game. I'm interested to see how they make a video game all about Gollum that's good. That's one of those random models that I was speaking about where you have models after the fact just lying around. I've got Gollum. I may need to look him out for this army. Well, I don't know if Gollum can go with Angmar. Probably not. Timelines don't quite match up. I just realised I didn't end this poll. Do you play unsupported games? 100% yes. Well, there you go. Do I play any support games? I have unsupported games. I would play unsupported games. I don't regularly go out of my way to find said unsupported games though. So maybe. So I'm pretty optimistic. I think these will stick onto those bases that I've made quite easily. Is that a giant mould line I've just missed? No. I guess it's one of those things from here. Where do they go with the Lord of the Rings? I think there's definitely hopes that the new series from Amazon, the most expensive series of all time, will have an impact. Fingers crossed. I think it was the busiest I've ever seen some of the gaming clubs that I was in. I think it saw a huge sort of surge in number of players when this came out. The old games and then into the miniature hobby. I think a lot of people were hoping that the Game of Thrones game would do the same thing. But if you play the Game of Thrones thing, you'll know that the thing that kills the Game of Thrones thing isn't even the final season of Game of Thrones. Well, that probably stopped people from playing it, but didn't stop them from joining. But it's just the distribution. I still haven't managed to get some of the season 1 models, and they're like on season 4 at this point with my Greyjoy. Got over 100 models painted for them. Hopefully Matt will be back in the fold playing more Game of Thrones. I need to rope him in for a tournament, I think. Get a nice little doubles tournament going on. He also wants to go down to Nottingham HQ. He's never been to Games Workshop HQ, which blows my mind. So I'll definitely need to grab him, throw him in the car at some point and drive down there. Nottingham is not far from where I live now, down in Manchester. Nice easy drive over the Pennines and then straight down the M1. Be cool to do some games down there at some point. Although I believe the rules are pretty strict about what you're allowed to play. Like right down to like models having to be painted and based and all that jazz. Which having any target's always good. Kim says, are you planning on painting Monster Hunter as part of a stream/videos? Yes, absolutely. For my own enjoyment as much as anything. Can you imagine how fun it's going to be to paint like a Rathalos? Oof. I'm judging by that though that you are also a fan, so I'm curious now to see what you would have chosen. What models would you have liked to have seen in Monster Hunter World? Because that's the thing, it was based off of the video game. Because people were asking, you know, do you plan on doing such and such monsters a release? They were like, nope. Monster Hunter World only at the moment. I wonder how big to get in scale with that game. Like some of the giant bosses, like the lava boss. I wonder how big he would have had to be. I don't mean the Teostra, I mean like the big one. I can't remember what it's called now. Lunastra? No, I think Lunastra was the blue one. My argument is it's cheaper to buy the models through that board game than it is to buy some really nice statues. Because that's what I've always been tempted by. Definitely something I've considered, which I'm probably going to do for the commission video, is commission someone else to clean my models. See how much it costs and how happy I am with the result. Because, man, I hate building models. I miss the good old days when I had someone that would build and clean them for me, and I would paint their models. And that worked out great. And then I moved. Boo. What would be really funny is if I managed to get all these painted and all these cleaned in time for the end of the month, and then the people I want to play with have already gone off of it. I hope not. I was looking at a bunch of 3D sculpts the other day, and it was Biker Mice from Mars. So I bought them. Oh, what we got? We've got Vinny, we've got Modo, and I always forget who the last one is. But I picked up all three. I was like, oh, go on then. The funny thing is I now have the STLs for them, but don't have a 3D printer. So go figure that one. Simple reason of it is just it's another skill set. If I got one, I'd probably use it mainly for doing printing little things for bases. See, when you're painting a giant army like this, do mould lines matter? Do they matter? Do you spot mould lines on other people's models? I don't think it matters. I'm surprised there wasn't a Rathian, Tigrex, or Rajang in the game. Seems mad to have a Rathlos and not a Rathian. When you say there wasn't a Rathian, I assume you mean in the board game? I think there was a Rathian in Monster Hunter World. Unless my brain has just filled that in. My plan was I bought the Azure expansion. So the Azure Rathlos, and I was going to paint that up. I absolutely agree. Tigrex, was the Tigrex in Worlds? I remember it haunting my dreams in the previous games, and I definitely wanted that as a model. But you're right, it wasn't in the board game. I feel like the Rajang wasn't in Worlds either. Again, could be wrong, but I don't think it was. I remember it was one of the most terrifying missions I had to do in either Try or I want to say Freedom with the double Rajang. That was absolutely terrifying. But if it does well, I am absolutely sure they'll do a second one, and we will have even more monsters and models to paint. There was a good video by MS Paints recently talking about a different style of commission painting. A painting where they where what they do is just buy big job lots of stuff like this, paint them up, to a reasonable tabletop level, and then just sell them, and just have them sitting on their store or sitting them on eBay for as long as it takes until it gets sold. I think that's pretty cool. I think it's a much scarier way of doing commission. But it also means you get to paint what you love, and that guy makes enough money to live off of it. And it's a good compromise because it means for example, you aren't painting just Space Marines alone. Although I think if you can master Space Marines to make them look good in a time-efficient way, I think that would be a great way of earning a living. Got to learn to do the absolute minimum you possibly can to make it look good. The people who accept to pay for it. Not being a world-class painter. I challenged the pro painter, the studio painter at Mantic to paint off in the speed paint competition. He got so stressed that he was like, I can't do it. It's like, these paints are terrible. These brushes are terrible. Kevin says, haha, yeah, sorry, meant the board game. I also went all in. Absolutely. I think Tigrex and Rajang were in Iceborne. See, now. Do you know what? I'm not 100% sure if I have that or not. Every time I open up Monster Worlds, it looks like Iceborne, but I don't remember buying the expansion. My friend that played Monster World with me gave up on it, so then I just didn't continue. Because I enjoy it, but I much prefer when you're hunting with someone else. Not sure if you're planning an Iceborne expansion. What's the one? Is it the Baroth, which is like the huge horns, and it's basically huge tusks, and it's basically the ice version of a Tigrex. Double Super Saiyan Monkey. Pretty sure that was in Freedom Unite on the PSP. Yeah, I agree. I think it was. Played the hell out of that. Oh, what was it called? The Sinister Cloth. Because that was the one that had the mini game where you had to send the little feline cats off to do like investigation, and I just got them to spam over and over and over again until I got enough Sinister Cloth to do the full Reaper outfit. Because that had such good pierce or whatever it was that meant that you didn't get deflected. God, I'm a fraud. I don't remember any of the terminology anymore. Absolute fraud. You said you went all in. You know that the Azure expansion and the Black Diablos weren't part of the all in. You have to add them separately in the Pledge Manager. You don't need them. You know, you get the stats for those anyway. But if you wanted the extra models, you have to buy them separately. They're not part of the all in. God, I remember when the Diablos and Monobliss were like the scariest thing in the PS2 game. But for me, personally, Nergargante. Oh, that model, that monster in the game made me cry. It does so many of these sort of slam attacks that shoot spines everywhere. And it just is an awful, awful foe. I was, of all the games, for games that I've never played, that I've watched far too much of, it's got to be Elden Ring. I've been watching so many videos about Elden Ring. It's just ridiculous. And it got me to looking up 3D models, because I was like, I could buy what's her name, Melania. I could buy the first Elden Lord. Was it Joffrey, whatever his name is. So I'll probably buy those at some point, because they were crazy cheap to buy as well. It's one of those things, isn't it, with 3D printing? Once you've done the R&D, the models themselves are not actually that expensive to print. One of my favourite gaming memories is playing through another board game, Zombicide, which I have not played in years, and yet I've been running the largest Zombicide Facebook group for over a decade now at this point. But yeah, that was a really, really good campaign. It was entirely fan-made, and it basically joined all of the modern Zombicides together. And it had like a base building element, etc., and random elements. It was just so good. I was talking to Matt about that, how like campaigns just make any game better. Although I would still love to know how people balance really long leagues. Every league we've tried to play, when they have things like boosters for when someone's not doing so well, never seems to balance out correctly. Thank you for mentioning it. I harassed Steam Force to sell Rathalos and Diablos as my OCD couldn't cope painting the standard Rathalos and using the Azure deck. Good, good. You are an unsung hero, my friend. Although, when I saw the price of it, because it was really not too bad, considering you're getting two big chunky models, I was like, for 20 quid, I could buy another set of it, and then I'd have a Rathian and a Azure one. Oh, but if you're going to do that, I would need to buy another set so I could have a pink Rathian as well. And then I decided no. Mainly because I didn't want that many Diabloses. One black Diablos is more than enough. Yeah, the Horizon Zero Dawn game is absolutely fine. I wouldn't rush out and buy it. Definitely not at the inflated second-hand Kickstarter prices. But it's absolutely fine. And I have no fear that they will do a fine job on building that game as well. And like I said, at the end of the day, all I really care about is the models. Most expensive model that I've ever bought for a faction that I don't play? I'm trying to remember. I can't remember if I had officially decided that I was actually going to collect. I already had loads and loads of Chaos Warriors, but I think I bought Be'lakor before I really thought about the fact that I might not have had an army for him. And he was blooming expensive. But apart from that, I don't think I've ever bought that inexpensive a model. Like, to own it. And in fact, that's a lie. I bought the Necron, I want to call it a Tombstalker. It was this big centipede model, and it was just so cool. I was like, oh, I don't play Necrons, but I'm going to get that model. And then I never built it and then sold it. But in terms of raw gameage, it's got to be Kingdoms of Death Monster. Bought it, built it, didn't enjoy it, sold it, and then found out that I'd sold it for a fraction of the price it was going for. Oh well, someone got a good deal. Says, I love Zombicide. I bought all of the original run. Didn't bother with the second edition. Far too many minis. Painted about half of them. It's what got me into painting, actually. Very cool. I had all the modern stuff, and then they brought out the medieval stuff, and I went all in on the medieval stuff. And then there was some models that you could only get through like timed events or if you won stuff. And so I went in a huff and was like, you know what? I've played this to death. I'm getting rid of it. But I painted all of it. Sold it to a guy that actually lives not that far away from me in the grand scheme of things. I think my logic was that if I ever wanted to play it again, I could play with them. Most ridiculous games that I've ever done it with. Ark World, which was made by Warplock Miniatures. And bought loads of it, loved the models, painted it all, didn't play a single game before I ended up selling it. So that was a bad one. And another bad one was they made D&D with like loads of different dragons. And it was kind of like X-Wing, but nobody else was interested in it. And I'd already bought like, I don't know, 200 quid's worth or something like that. And then they brought out like foot soldiers, and I was like, no, I don't want to play with foot soldiers. I just want to play with dragons. But I'm sure we've all made dumb mistakes like that. Even just buying and selling stuff. You've probably bought an army at some point, played with it a tiny bit, and then sold it. I think we're all guilty of that to a certain extent. Everyone else, anyone made some dumb impulse purchases you definitely regret later? I bought a Wartime board that was absolutely gorgeous, but then it turned out to be horribly impractical to play on. That was a bad one. I think that was £150. But that was lucky because it was so nice. I sold it for the price that I got it for, so I didn't lose any money on that one. The shields are very flat. I'm wondering how they're going to stick on. Oh my goodness, we're an hour down. No, an hour and a half down. What? No. Yes. Oh my goodness. I thought at this point I would have all the models cleaned. Apparently not. You know what? I'm going to treat myself. I'm going to do the wargs next because I just cannot face doing more of these little guys. So let's gather these bad boys up. You can go over there. Definitely going to lose those shields, aren't I? Right. Do you know what? I bought these and never actually opened the packet. I trusted the guy that they were all in there when I bought them second hand. This wasn't him, by the way. This was my cat. Who thinks she has pica. She'll blooming eat anything that's in her way. James says, Horus Heresy a few years ago, bought a ton of stuff and then realised I couldn't face painting all those Marines. Oof. So you sold it. It's a shame considering the new edition's out. I actually bought a whole bunch of the Primarchs. I'd collected them for a while, then got rid of them when things got tight, and so I've rebought a bunch of them. So I plan on painting those all up. My plan is to do basically the Primarchs almost as an example of the different painting techniques. So like, how good can you paint with speed paint, and like paint a Primarch model with speed paints only. How well can you dry brush, paint a Primarch with only dry brushing, that sort of thing. Because otherwise I think you can sometimes give a technique a bad shtick just because you use a bad model with it. But I don't think anyone can say that you're using a bad model if you use one of the Primarchs. Although I do really regret selling my painted Horus. I know the guy who's got it, and I've tried to buy it back a few times. I've even offered him quite a bit more than what he paid me for it, but he refuses. I think that's a compliment. If you think about it hard enough, it's a compliment. Doesn't want to start with to let go of my magnificent painting. I've just realised they have separate tails. How badly is that going to cost me if I don't do it now? That clearly doesn't go with that. Go on, get in the hole. There we go. Lovely. And what about you? Hopefully you pair up. You do. Okay, I don't know what that would nubble in. Maybe for his back? James says, bought a Gene Stealer Cult army years ago as well, but they were annoying to play, so sold them after a couple of games. I think they're one of the hardest ones. Or I remember when I was watching Tabletop Titans, it seemed like they lost a lot. They sound like a really hard army to play. Does that match up? Hopefully it does. It does. Lovely. I do like the idea of the Gene Stealer Cult though. It is a cool idea. There was a video about like horrible things in the 40k universe, and it was about the Gene Stealer Cult and how like they think that the patriarch of the Gene Stealer Cult is like this emissary of God. But the really dark part is that they fight obviously their friends and family as they think they're doing it for like the Emperor. And then they sort of call out to the hive mind, and the hive mind sends a swarm. And the last thing that happens is the patriarch cuts the glamour. So they all wake up and realize to their horror what they've done before they die. Who wrote that into lore? That is dark. Never mind grim dark future, it's just dark. Someone check on that author and just check that everything's okay at home, because yikes. This was the same video that was talking about the what are they called? The jester dudes. Space clowns. Oh, what are they called? But they've got a weapon called like the monofilament blade. And basically, when they shoot it into you, it unravels the blade inside of you and like just shreds you from the inside, and like it's like a mile long or something ridiculous like that. Harlequins, that's it. Thank you, James. That's another set of models actually that I bought, which was a terrible idea for an army I didn't have. Was the the Harlequins, and I want to say they were called Spectres from Forge World. And again, someone was just selling them at a car boot sale or something like that, and I was like, oh, I'll have those. Never even came out of their packaging before I sold them. Although speaking of Harlequins. I can't remember if I showed everyone what I managed to pick up at a charity shop of all things. I'm never someone that finds any of these charity shop deals. I actually found some pretty cool stuff in a charity shop recently. Oh. Epic 40k, Games Workshop, Game Miniatures, Elder Nightwing, Elder Phoenix Bombers. Look at these beauties. Look at that. If you ever played I want to say it was called Flames of War, Fire of War, something like that. You might have used little models like these. It was a hex-based strategy game. How cool are they? So there was that. So they're really cool. And then there was Epic Eldar Army. Look at that. Although there's a part of me going, there's part of me that's saying don't bother repainting them at all. They're painted. But there's another part of me going, how the heck am I going to paint those? I mean, how can I sort of do for scale? Like, there's my finger next to one of them. So they're smaller than my fingernail. You know, orcs are, they're slightly smaller than Warhammer. But they look like absolute gods by comparison. It's like the size of his foot. Yeah. How cool is that? Definitely my best charity shop find I've ever had. Then the final one, clearly whoever sold these was an Eldar player. Battlefleet Gothic. Look at that. I mean, look how old this tissue paper is as well. Clearly these have been wrapped up for quite some time. But it's a Eldar Craft World Fleet. So I've got stuff for Epic. I've got stuff for Aeronautica, the old style. And I've got stuff for Battlefleet Gothic. No, the rules for this were quite different to sort of standard. It was designed to be very fast played, and it was a lot more to do with like organization of units. So it really mattered, like if you had some little guys supporting a tank, that kind of thing, like comboed. Whereas there's not really that sort of idea. You know, if you're playing 40k, you've basically got a tank and you've got a unit of troops separate, and they don't really do much. There's whole groups dedicated to 40k on Facebook, which are definitely worth following just for all the cool models, because people just 3D print them now. I couldn't pass them up for the price. I was like, yes, please. I will have those. Right, Wargy boys. Let's get you cleaned up. The Apocalypse rules are pretty good. If you've never tried the Apocalypse rules, they're not designed for the modern, what we're up to, 9th, 40k 9th, but they're still a lot of fun. It means you can play with a ridiculous number of models, because again, instead of looking at individual units, you're now doing huge like combined squads, and the shooting in Apocalypse is simultaneous, so you get to shoot everything, they get to shoot everything, which is very nice. one of my favourite sort of games that we played was Storm of Magic for Oldhammer, and it had these things called arcane fulcrums, and they could make your wizards like really juiced up, and then they did terrible things like summon demons or strike down your unit, turn them to gold, etc. And we played a game on a full-size pool table and just had both sides just absolutely covered. It was brilliant. But it was absolutely open to abuse because you were allied, like forces of good, forces of evil, you could cast spells from all these different armies in a single unit. And so we had a unit that was like attacking first at max strength, had an invulnerability save. It was basically a Death Star unit. Good times. Played another one where I played 100 ogres in a single unit. I had far too many ogre models. I don't think I've ever played in a tournament of Lord of the Rings. I'm trying to remember if I have. I don't remember doing so. That'll need to be next on the list then. Unless I count a friendly mini tournament against friends. Maybe I can fulfill that one at the weekend then. There's quite a few YouTubers around Manchester that play Lord of the Rings as their sort of their main. So it'd be cool to play against some of them. Although if you want to do Lord of the Rings, which, I mean, we really want to go out to New Zealand at some point, I would definitely need to drop Zorpazorp a message. If you've never watched his channel, it's definitely worth checking out. He's currently making Barad-dûr in like a fully playable board. Barad-dûr being the if you remember, Gandalf gets trapped by Saruman or by Sauron, whichever one it is, and the necromancer and whatnot. That's what he's making with the jailer, etc. And that is going to be a cool board. I do wonder like where he gets the space from, let alone all the stuff. I think one of the most random models I've got is I've got like a Talia model from The Hobbit somewhere. That was one of those terrain kits where I'm just like, oof, I can't justify buying the entire Goblin Town box just to get the terrain. But I was always tempted. But it never really came down in price. I never saw anyone selling it for like a decent price. What's everyone else working on? People still working on stuff for the tournaments? Art. Oh, very cool. It's one of the things about Games Workshop. Say what you like about their game systems, but their artwork is phenomenal. I think I don't know if you're in here at this point. Let's go. But that was the art that I converted. If you've not seen it, just Google Death Guard versus Tau, and you'll see the artwork this is based on. I think it's called like Blood of the Alien or something like that. I can't remember, but it's it was really good. It's also a really good audiobook. If you listen to an audiobook. But if you want to post any of that in the Discord, if you want to show us what you're working on and tag us to your Instagram, do feel free to pop it in the Discord. James says, painting about 1,000 layers of yellow. Not a fan of painting in yellow. And yet, one of the finest non-metallic metal birds I've ever seen. and you did it in one sitting. I think you're just getting old. It's getting harder. Suddenly those lines, not as easy as they used to be. A friend of mine, Richard, is he's painting Eldar. And I was like, oh, what faction are you going to go for? Are you going to go for something easy? He was like, yeah, I'm going to do the Iandan. I was like, you're going to go for yellow and blue. Like one of the hardest colour schemes. He was like, yep. But this is a guy who chose to do black and chose to do white as his main colours for his previous armies. So you can tell he's a bit of a masochist. But what are you painting that's 1,000 layers of yellow? I mean, if I was to take a wild guess, I'd say Imperial Fist or a Yandan Eldar. Unless, of course, it's some kind of Bretonnian, I guess. Oh, we've got 2 people who joined the Discord. Hello, hello. Oh, the 50 men at arms. And you've gone with yellow as the colour you decided to do for 50 men at arms. It's technically 50,000 layers. Dude, buy an airbrush. 50 quid will get you an airbrush and you would have those layers done in a few minutes. Do it. Do it now. I really liked your Dark Eldar that you did. Very cool. With the sort of what were they called? Fancy paints. Shiny paints. Shiny Dark Eldar. I'm selling them very well. Have you tried out the new contrast yet? I have not. Have you yourself? I like contrast paints. I like speed paints. But at this point, I have so many. Well, I've got enough. Maybe when they run out. Oh, very cool. Now, this is where I'm going to be ever so slightly, careful. And say it's definitely some kind of... because I haven't played all the Metal Gears. It's definitely Metal Gear. But I also know that I'm bad enough that I'm going to get one of the snakes sort of mixed up. But the one on the left is from the most recent game. So I want to say Big Boss. Tell me if I'm completely wrong, but that's an amazing drawing. Damn. I cannot draw for toffee. Very jealous. Excellent work. Pearlescent. Do you know what? That's a paint I would love. If someone did like diesel, like as a paint. You know when petrol or diesel goes in water and it gives that really cool effect? I wish someone did paint like that. I don't know if it would be possible or not, but that would be a good paint to do. Now, funny thing about Snake Eater, there was, in the back of gaming magazines back in the day, they would always have like random numbers and stuff like that. And there was one of those numbers which, let's say it was for some form of entertainment, and it was making a joke because obviously they'd heard of the video game Snake Eater, and it was making a joke about that. And I was like, oh, I want to play that game. And my friend was like, no, you don't. I was like, yeah, I do. That's a funny gaming memory there. But yeah, no, that's a really cool artwork. I will pop it on the screen at the end of the stream so everyone can see, if that's all right. I'm not going to do it now because I'll inevitably mess up OBS somehow. I'm really happy. I was playing around with the settings for the focus. I feel like I've managed to get it so the focus stays at the same. There was a fancy term for it. I think it was focal length. So you see it's not constantly zooming in and out, which I think makes everyone less dizzy. I only have the shields plus transfers and basic to go. Nice. I need to hurry up and do my Victrix models, but part of me that's scared of doing the Roman Victrix models is I would need to do tons of transfers on the shields, or worse, freehand. Which begs the question, why are you not doing freehand? 50 freehand shields? It will take you no time at all. Oh, mold lines. Mold lines. They suck. But at least none of these are over like the main features. There was a release of the High Elves. And it was from the Blood in the... Oh, I want to say Blood in the Isles. It was something like that. It was High Elves versus Skaven. It was a great box sets for the value. But their Hoth models, their Sword Masters of Hoth, had like a mold line right across their faces. It was just the worst. How are you supposed to deal with that? I remember I had a metal model that was so badly cast I had to paint on the nose and the mustache. I remember at the time thinking, oh, this looked good. But in reality, it probably didn't. It would have to be Brie hand lines. I am an old man now, got shaky hands. That's one thing I haven't. I actually bought, I think I mentioned it on the last stream. 8 Rising Miniatures was talking about some paints that he uses. Some paint brushes, sorry. Paint pens that he uses. And so I picked them up. I think they were like £9. And they have a crazy fine nib on them. But I got them mainly because he was saying how good they are for edge highlighting like vehicles and stuff like that. But I imagine they'd be pretty good for freehand as well. What we got? 18 colours? Ooh. Ooh. Luminous green. I've opened this up down, haven't I? Pink. Come on. Just a colour I can use, please. I'm begging you. Oh. Ah, yeah, these were the real reasons I bought it, because of the metallic pens. Those ones I thought I could really use. But they were on sale at the time when he was talking about them in his video. Let's find out. Let's try and paint the eye of one of these. I mean, they're not undercoated or anything like that, so this probably won't work, but let's have a look. How detailed an eye can I do on a tiny warg model using nothing but these pens? Well, the fact that I had to cut open the cellophane suggests that I probably haven't tried them good enough to give you my opinion yet. But let's find out. Let's solve this mystery right here, right now. Oh my goodness. I guess 10 out of 10 for packaging. I can't even get in. Right, let's see. Let's see. Can I colour in this eyeball? No. But then again, I also wouldn't really know how the heck I'm going to colour that in with a paintbrush. What the actual heck? I mean, it feels like it's dried out. It feels like it's actually not bringing out anything. Let's see, a piece of paper. Oh, they're shakeable. shake, rattle, and roll. They are not the... Maybe this is just a bad example of one, but they're not what I thought they would be. I thought they would be a much smaller tip and much softer, but these are hard. They are hard, scratchy, scratchy. Oh, there we go. Takes quite a bit of work to get them going, but once they're going, either that or it's so sharp it's actually scratching away the thing. Let's try a different pen. Let's try yellow. Sorry guys, we've changed. This is a pen testing channel now. Come on. Oh, you can push them in. Is that a thing? Am I supposed to push them in? I've never had to read instructions for a pen, but I'm beginning to wonder if I'm supposed to read the instructions. Shake, air out, push, right. Okay. There you go. Who's laughing now? I thought I was being dumb checking for instructions, but there are instructions. I mean, I'm still a guy who couldn't work out a pen. Shake, air out, push, right. Okay. Shake, air out. So shake it. Breaks the seal and it kind of bleeds up. You're right. You are absolutely correct. There we go. Right. Okay, let's try it now. So let's see. How you doing? Oh, I have no idea what I was expecting, but this isn't it. It's the strangest consistency. It doesn't feel like a pen. It feels like a Tipex pen. Do you know what? That's not hilariously bad. You'd probably need more than one coat. But then again, remember, I'm also not doing it over a base coat, so... I mean, he recommended to use them for final highlights, not actually painting with, but... You know what? That's not actually terrible. I wonder if when you let them dry, how easily you can highlight them. If I use my my white one to highlight it, or if these are the kind of things that just don't dry. Can you colour in the lines? Well, apparently not. Turned from a painting channel to a Sharpie minis and you know, do whatever works for you. Let's try and do the eyeball. Can I do the eyeball? Yes! Get in! Come on, the other one. Come on, you can do it, Sam. You can do it. Do you know what? I would not have been able to do that with a brush. That's hilarious. I'll put a photo in the Discord because that is absolutely hilarious. That genuinely works. Oh, very nice. We've got a solid snake in there. Very cool. I'll put it up on the big screen later. And we've got the ATSTs up as well. Let's put a little image of this hilarious beastie in. Well, there you go. There you go. As long as you make sure you read the instructions, it works. Yeah, be prepared for a video where I just try and paint a Primarch using pens. Be prepared. I mean, just look at those range of colours. Imagine if they actually blend well. That'd be just hilarious. Like you can do like blends using it. I mean, you've got red and orange. I mean, there's loads of greens there. I mean, that just screams out. I think I'll need to do oh, who's the salamander bad boy? Vulcan. I might need to do Vulcan. I mean, look at that. Or we've got some blues there. We could do Gilliman. What do we think? Which Primarch lends themselves to be coloured in by pens? Yeah. I mean, to be fair, paint pens. They are called paint pens. Right, where were we? Oh, I've no idea which ones I've cleaned and which ones I haven't now. I'm going to say I've cleaned all of those. How about this guy? You know. That is not an empty sprue. It has tiny bits of fur in it. I assume they have to go in its back. Something to do with injection molding, maybe? What have we got here? Ah, so presumably this kit can make either the riding wargs or the non-riding wargs, and that's what the bits of fur are for. That's a cool idea. Do I have to choose? I do not. So I just need all the pieces. Cool. Those are great. I'm going to pick up some if you want a bigger pen. Poundland had a silver and gold yesterday when I was in. They look chunky as hell, so might be easy for armor. Yeah. The one I want to pick up is I want to try using like just silver spray paint. I'm curious to see like how good just using silver spray paint as a base coat could be. Because I mean, I got some. I finally found the last one, so I've got 3 of these that I need to paint, and I wonder if I could get away with using pens on them. So many painting projects, so little time. Oh my goodness, I have not got anywhere near as many of the models done as I need to get done. Oh no. Oh dear, oh dear. Oops, I just chopped his toe off. I had a hilarious incident at work. We were doing go-kart racing, and I accidentally caused one of the leaders to crash, and they were so mad. They literally got out and flipped me the bird and swore in my face. This is a 40-something-year-old man absolutely raging. And it's worth noting that they still won. They still came first place. So much for good team building. I wanted to throw the a blue shell, you know, like one of the cuddly Mario blue shells, but they don't really have a sense of humor, so I decided not to. I saw one online where they're electric cars, and so you have the ability to control their speed a bit more, like capping it, unlike with like, you know, petrol cars. Go-karts, that is. And how cool would that be if you like go over a particular bit on the floor, it gives you a speed boost? I think that'd be absolutely hilarious. You do that a bit in e-cars, where like the people's vote can give someone a car boost, which is just hilarious. I always liked watching the electric cars. There's way more happening. Way more overtaking. Speaking of random things, so my lovely light here for my interest lighting. Also, just like the way it looks, my Edison bulb. Someone was selling some, and they're like, it's like a globe this size, but it looks like a planet. And Facebook, I think it's Facebook, knows that I love that kind of stuff. Like they sold me a few years ago these little turtles that are magnetized, and their backs are little worlds, like straight out of Terry Pratchett. There's another one that they sold, which was a one that's sand, and so like you rotate it and it becomes this cool landscape as it's pouring out. Oh, I want to, after finishing this one, I want to make a globe. Ouch! I just clocked my headphones. I want to make a globe, but the question is, what should I put in the globe? Should it be something like a Necron? Should it be like a Tomb King? What would look good inside of like a globe? And what would you put in? Would you put in sand? Be very traditional, or would you put in some kind of colored sand? What do you think? What would you put inside of a globe? So I'm thinking almost like a snow globe. I mean, or it could be snow. Can you think of what would look good in a snow globe? Why would you need... What kind of scene would you need sand in? You should have someone that's like, I don't know, up to their neck in sand or something like that, but then when you rotate it upside down, they're on the top. I guess you could have the sand hide a scene. You could do something like have like a sprawling, happy city, and then when you rotate it, like the grey dust comes in. Ooh. I'm listening to, as I said, the Gotrek and Felix ones, and they're in the Chaos Wastes at the moment. And they're talking about like these cities, and due to the way that time works in the Chaos Wastes, at some points they're in a thriving city, and at other points they're in this desolated ruin. That'd be quite a cool idea to have a snow globe. a Diablos diorama. Yeah, no, that's an excellent idea. Do I really want to sacrifice only one of my 2 Diablos models, though? Maybe I need to get in the Pledge Manager and see if I can buy another one. Or see if I can get someone to 3D print one. But that is a good idea. I do like the idea of Diablos. Yeah, a sand globe. I mean, if anyone has any other weird ideas like that and they don't have a YouTube channel or a blog that they're trying to promote, I will happily steal your excellent ideas. Here's an idea that I have that I like as an idea. One of my friends who is much better at YouTube than I am said that it's not necessarily a good idea, but I like it. Let's say I put up 2 pictures, and for sake of argument, let's choose someone that's ridiculously good at painting. Let's choose Squidmar. We probably all know who Squidmar is. So what you would do is I'd have a picture of a model painted by me. Excuse me. I'd have a picture painted by Squidmar, and then people could vote how much better one is than the other. So, for example, if I put up a silly little poll, so how much better is... I haven't clicked in the cell. Let's try that again. How much better is Squidmar than me at painting? I feel like I should put it in there, because if you just put in there, oh, how much better he is, I think I might take that personally. So is he twice as good? Is he 4 times as good? Is he... I don't know. Why 4? Let's do 5. Is he 5 times as good? Is he 10 times as good? Is he 100 times better than me? So this is what I would do. I would challenge someone who's good at painting, and then I would get the community to vote how much better they are than me. So what do we think? How much better is Squidmar than me at painting? Oof. 100. I don't mean 100% better. I mean 100 times better. Okay, now that's very flattering. The fact that he's only 2 times better than me, I think that's is equally ridiculous. I don't know if he's definitely better than 2 times painting than me, but I like your flattery. I don't know if anyone's 100 times better. That would be it's a very large number. I probably should have put in something like 50 or something like that. Okay, now you're just being cute. He's more than 2 times better than me. A friend's just sent me, you need to start rapping on the stream. I hope you mean rapping, rapping like, as in wrapping up parcels, because me rapping wouldn't work. Well, I'd be like, I'm just painting some more orcs right now. No. Hoping I don't look like a clown. Okay, so the vote is that he's 2 times better than me. Well, that doesn't really demonstrate the thing that I was trying to show. But that's what you would sort of do. So you would put in, like, how much better is he than this? And then what I would do is I would paint something as good as I possibly could. So we'd have the same model, and then I would paint it as good as I could. Say I spend 10 hours painting it, and I paint it as good as I possibly can. And then whatever the public had voted by how much better they are, they get that much less time. So the person that voted that Squidmar is 100 times better, that would mean instead of getting 10 hours time, he would get 1 hour, then he would get divided by 10 again. So I'm not sure how you would do that. 10 minutes. So he would get 1 minute, basically. And I don't know, but I reckon that if I had 10 hours and he had 1 minute, I reckon I could beat Squidmar. And I don't think that's arrogant. Although for the people that sent 2 times better than me, yeah, well, I definitely couldn't beat him. If he had 5 hours, if he had 1 hour, he would still beat me. So I think 10 times would be fair. But yeah, that's the idea for a video. What do you think? Do you think that's a good idea? Do you think you could challenge someone much better than you, get the audience beforehand to vote how much better they are than painting, and then see if they could beat you? Little dancing man. Did anyone see that in the... I don't know if you watched the podcast where Miniac and Ninjon were discussing about like a sort of a MasterChef style. Ah, fantastic. Good. I mean, if at least one person will watch it, it's worth doing. I mean, if nothing else, I'd get horribly crushed. But I need to find someone that's about the same size as me or smaller than me to challenge first that's a really good painter before I can challenge one of the big boys. The idea would be to win. Like, my mate was like, "Oh, would you deliberately throw it and like get creamed?" And I was like, "No, I'm too much of a tryhard." But yeah, sorry. Back to Trapped Under Plastic. They were talking about like a master chef where you'd have loads of different styles, and you'd do like, oh, you do speed painting, you do mass painting, you do commission painting, etc. as different competitions. And if you haven't watched the latest episode, they actually got approached by a producer of a network that were like, "Hey, we want to discuss details." Now that will be very cool. Because I mean, if we have like things like Forged in Flame, and like Sword Masters, and why not? Why not miniature painting? I would pay to watch that. Pay per view. Oh my goodness. I will swap. I'm at the point where I'm just happily to swap. So whatever you're doing, I'll swap. I'll finish your drawing. I'll paint your shields. Please just someone else finish the cleaning of models. I talked about it in my motivation video, not the procrastination one that came out today. The motivation video. And this is not what I would normally do. I would have one of these, like a cleaning job, and then I would have like a base coating job, a building job. I'd have one of each job type. And at this point, I definitely would have switched if I wasn't doing the stream. I would have done something else. No, I love all three of those. Kevin says you could try Luke from Geek Gaming Scenics, Benji from Benji's Hobbies, or Dave from MS Paints. They're all a bit bigger than me, and by a big I mean a factor of 10. So I need to find someone of a slightly smaller channel. I mean, if I could convince my friend Sergey from MiniQuest 64, I would absolutely challenge him. He's considerably better painter than me. So he'd absolutely wimp me. But he has his own schedule of things already. So if you think of a channel, do let me know. If you've got a friend that has a channel, do let me know. I will challenge them. I like Luku BS. He has very much a similar attitude to me of just get your miniatures done as quickly as possible. I like when he does his videos about batch painting and his challenges to get stuff done for the next night, and it's all achievable. I think that's always been my problem is my Instagram for the longest time was just flooded by people. I was like, oh, they're amazing painters, but then I found that did nothing for my self-esteem and motivation. It actually made it worse. So then I started following people that paint a lot and paint to tabletop standard. And it was the best decision I've ever done with Instagram. I mean, heck, it's kind of like social media all over, isn't it? If you only follow people on social media, you always see the good moments in their life. Very rarely do you see the bad. And so then you compare your life to their perfect life, not to their actual life. Commander Lurpak, I actually watched a couple of his videos. He was very good, James. You recommended him on the last stream. What I can't remember is how big a channel he is. You know what? Yes, he is exactly the kind of person. And he's a hell of a lot better painter than I am. He's a perfect victim. Cheers. Yeah, I will absolutely... Do you know what? I don't think he's in the YouTuber community either, so I'll reach out to him to see if I can't get him to come over and join the old YouTuber community. He's putting a lot of work as well. 36 videos that rapid is darn impressive. I also love the name Lurpak. Wonder if this guy's a champion. There you go. So watch out for that video soon. And by soon, I mean, well, it depends on when their schedule is. There was a channel, if you all haven't checked them out, that I started recently watching in earnest, and I'm hoping I have it near the top of my list. Otherwise, I'll need to put it in later. And again, it's another one of these channels where it's really nice, easy to watch, enjoyable to watch, and very relatable sort of painting. Oh, I can't remember what they're called. Oh, I'll put it in the chat later. They're so good as well. But they do there's two of them, and they do painting, and their editing and their videography is amazing, and their painting is really relatable. But they did a video recently that had me in absolute stitching. It was like how to pro paint, and they absolutely butcher a model, like deliberately so, in this horrible paint job, and it is hilarious. And the videography is, like I said, out this world. Come on, Sam. Just a couple more. Just a couple more. You can do it. I'm trying to think of the worst mold line I've ever left on and then not realised. I've definitely left on, when you chop off the you chop off the sprue, and accidentally left like a chunk of it on the model, and I was like, it's too late. I can't do it. Because that's definitely something that I'm still struggling with, is when you paint something and you're really happy with it, and then you want to do a bit more on top of it, like some freehand or something like that over the top. That's definitely something that I still worry about. Hello, Cheese Putter. Thank you for dropping by. Oh, there he goes. But is anyone tempted by the new release of The Lord of the Rings? Anyone thinking of going, you know what, now is the time? Did they say the prices for the new box sets? I want to say 60 quid. But I could be wrong. If they'd released a £60 one, including a Mimic, I definitely would have gone back for a Harad army. Just because I would love the army of the Camel Riders. If you are into Lord of the Rings, there is a good Patreon called The Printing Goes Ever On. And that's a really good one. You've probably seen, not it advertised, but there's a 3D printer who's been advertising them a lot, advertising his shop, sort of as those models. They're very nice. Any other hobby memories that people have? One of the saddest ones I think I have is when I accidentally left an army behind. You always think that they'll come back to you, but they never do. Left it at a tournament under a table. If you ever want to be really, really popular, if you're ever going to a tournament, take yourself an extension cable. You will be an absolute hero if you take an extension cable. So people can plug their phones in and whatnot. I'm not saying you can use it to bribe your opponents to help you win, but it probably wouldn't hurt. Alternatively, a power bank is always a good idea to take with you. One of the most ridiculous ones we ever had is there was a power cut. It was in winter, November, so it was already dark outside, And we finished the rest of the games with head torches on. Because we were on like the last few games. We were like, nope, nope, we're not leaving. But has anyone done a narrative tournament? That's something that I always wanted to exist. But I don't know if it's a thing. I've been to tournaments where the focus is not necessarily on winning. You know, it's more about sportsmanship and stuff like that. And so if you're a try-hard, you'll actually, you know, definitely not win. But I've not been to a true blue narrative campaign. I really like the ones where you've got like a community one. 40k used to do them. 40k used to do ones where you would go into your local games workshop, and whenever you played a game, it would be like listed on like a map in the sector, and each store, whoever was winning in that sector, would contribute to the story, which I thought was quite cool. But as far as I know, they haven't done an event like that in ages. There's one recently, which the Moonstone tournament that I'm going to will contribute, called Eric's Fate. And basically, whenever you play, Eric has slightly different rules and slightly different... Oh, dear. I guess this guy has a broken sword. Eric has slightly different stats for all the different factions. And basically, what happens to him will be determined by all of the games played in that, which I think is pretty great. James says, the Horse Heresy community here runs narrative tournaments with the results of the tournaments affecting the story of the next. Never suggested, but it seems like a cool idea. That does indeed. I mean, if you hadn't sold all your Marines, you could be participating right now. Has anyone tried out the new 30 Curie rules? It's not something I've tried, but I was told that it's like older rules, an older version of 40k. With some new spicy stuff thrown in. So I would definitely try it. Nobody here, as far as I know, has it. Although I bet you if I went along to Element, I probably would find some people. Got Titanicus. Titanicus is great. Oh my goodness. So many little pieces. The first model that I cleaned was probably done to a much higher level than these last ones. 2 for 2 swords that I've snapped in half. Good, good. This is looking promising. Can we go for 3 of 3? Right, come on, Sam. Focus. Focus. Okay. First connector done. Right. Second connector. Oof. There we go. You can clean a sword without snapping it in half. Well done, Sam. Well done. Now, the narrative campaigns, I do like that, but I'm talking about like an actual full-on tournament. But I guess by its very nature, the word tournament means that it's got to be competitive to a certain extent. Well, I managed to keep one of the swords intact. 1 out of 4 ain't bad. These guys have been fighting really hard. That's my excuse. Mantic are doing one at the moment as well. I really like it when you get the all the little charts showing like how many games each faction has won, how many people are running them, etc. One of my favorite stories, though, if you've ever done the 40k, if you're into D&D, there's a 40k D&D, and there was a guy who's playing in the tournament, in the story, and he wasn't sure if he was going to be able to attend much of the campaign, so he built like a really rubbishy acolyte for the Inquisitor, because they were in a part of like an Inquisitor's team, and he wanted this guy to basically just die when he chose. So, for example, he wasn't going to be able to attend it for a couple of weeks, so when there was an orc war boss, he like ran the acolyte straight at the orc war boss and like fell on his face, but it caused like him to drop the grenade that he was carrying, and then it bounced and it landed in the orc's mouth and blew its head off. It's much better than that. It's like it's not as ridiculously crash as that, but he keeps doing dumb stuff like that until he eventually ends up as an Inquisitor on his own. I want to call it something like Inquisitor Felix. No, I need to put in 40k there. Because he starts off as like brother something or other. Inquisitor Lord? No. 40k fan-made Inquisitor. Fan-made Inquisitor becomes canon, because he became so famous that he was actually mentioned in one of the 40k codexes. Is it this guy? Who's this? No, he's Torquemada. He's a Lord Inquisitor. No, this isn't it. Oh no, he's that's a different one. He's the one from the Inquisitor. If you've watched any of the videos on YouTube, just called Inquisitor, and it's amazing animation. That's not the guy I'm thinking of. Oh, what was his name? So, fan-made Inquisitor. So it's 40k. D&D brother becomes canon. Keeps bringing up stuff about actual canons. This is not what I want. What has become canon? Is this ringing any bells? Can anyone think of it? So it was a clumsy acolyte that, you know, crazy stuff happens to, and then he eventually becomes an Inquisitor. And he's got like huge stories behind him from this D&D campaign stuff. Everyone's like, no, we have not heard of this. You're making this up. I'm not. Necromancer, no. Oh, I can't remember. I'll find him later. But it's really good read. It's basically all of the story about how this brother keeps failing his way to the top, and every time the character, the player, the actual person is trying to leave, he does something dumb. It always succeeds with like ridiculous number of 20s, etc. And then, yeah, the story became so famous that it was actually in the Grey Knights Codex as canon. This Inquisitor was mentioned. when he was originally just a standard clumsy brother. Oh, what's the website called? It's like a slightly irreverent 40k website, and it talks about things like the angry Marines, etc. God, my memory's like toffee this evening. That's a good website, and I'm sure it has the story. I also can't remember what that website's called. Right, that's those all cleaned as well. 1d4 chan? I think you might be right, yeah. I want to say Brother Astorius, but I'm fairly certain that's a character from Dark Souls 3. Right, doggies, on you go. How has my paint glued? Has my paint dried? I mean, it's dried. It's not coming out on my finger. Get in the bag. Right, I'm not going to be able to do another unit, but I might at least be able to clean off the Witch King, which would be good. Can anyone else think of any super fast sort of painting styles? So far I've got Ghost, classic, Stone, classic, Metal Statue, slightly more unusual, Two-toned, so where you spray like reds on the bottom to like sort of imitate fire, and then the other side you do blues to do moonlight. That one's probably less common than those ones. Sin City. So if you've ever seen Sin City, you know that it's all black and white grayscale, but then a single splash of colour, like normally it's blood or like a red scarf or something like that. So those are the main sort of 5 super fast styles that I can think of. But can anyone think of other super fast styles of paint job? Where like it's like a, you know, most of the time it will be a minimalist paint job. Oh my goodness, the cat got to this as well. Jeez. He's plastic. I was not expecting that. I was fairly certain he was going to be resin. Wow, he's got a lot of pieces for a little person. So I can make him with a hood, or I can make him with a helmet. Oh, that I don't know. Let's get the horse. Bonk. This is a nice sculpt. Hopefully Gothmog's this kind of quality. Where's the other part of the horse? Yeah, can anyone else think of any other styles, like super fast painting styles? I don't mean techniques like dry brushing, I mean literally the appearance of the model. Again, I'm asking this to blatantly steal your inspiration for my video. Because that's the thing is, I'm probably going to do like the spectres as ghosts. I'll probably do the marsh dudes as the Sin City sort of grayscale with a splash of colour. I'm going to do the ring wraiths as the sort of the blue and the red, single colour scheme. I'm going to do Gulliver as the metal statue and the mountain chief, the troll mountain chief as the stone. But I don't have a colour scheme for the Fell Beast or just the standard orcs or the wargs. So if people can think of more fast paint schemes, it'd be very much appreciated. Right, how do you go together? Like So need that head. The Witch King of Angmar. Hood or helm? I think I'm probably going to go hood for the mounted one. Assuming that's the right piece. Oh wait, these are instructions. I could read those. Yeah. Hood for the mounted one. Spin the model round, get the head. Get number 17, a piece of cloth for the leg. Yeah. Sword arm's the same. Go. I voted for this in when they did the the poll of the best models. I thought this was one of the nicest ones that had come out in a long time. Did it come out at the same voting period as Be'lakor? I feel like this is a relatively new model. 2021, or at least that's what it says in the box. But that could be just when the copyright was renewed. So yeah, fairly new model. So he was up against Be'lakor, if that's right. What else are we missing? Number 13 is... I found a box with all my giant sprues in it. And it's quite funny because I found that after watching the video by 2E2D. Goobertown Hobbies, where he was talking about why do we hoard sprues? Am I the only one that hoards sprues, or are you also hoarders amongst you with boxes of sprues that you're never going to do anything with? Gonna get myself an electric pencil sharpener for another upcoming video, where I'm gonna do a battlefield in a day. So making an entire battlefield, and part of it's gonna be using the the cavalry traps that I created in one of the other videos. And for that, I am not doing all of those pieces by hand. So a quick. But I've kept all my sprues from like the rounded sprues, because I knew I was going to do that. The rest of them, I have no excuses for. I have no intention of using the sprues for anything. Looks like it may be all the pieces. Go at 11. Okay. I know some people can't stand slaughter models, but I love them. Less building. Right. Let's clean this horse up. I think it was Uncle Adam from Tabletop Minions that said, the Tau are like one of the easiest ones to paint. I think I proved that in my video where I did 200 of them in 2 hours, but they were really easy because it was literally a black rattle can, 2 different red rattle cans, and a blue, and that was it. And I am very happy with how they came out. The only thing I'm not happy about is every time I go upstairs I find more Tau that also need done. pain in the butt bit. Whose idea was it to start with the easy models and then leave the hardest model till last? Anyone closer to managing what they were trying to achieve this evening? Does anyone else have tournaments or anything like that coming up? I know James said that he had his Warhammer Fantasy Battle on. Nope. Is that a nope because you don't have a tournament coming up? Or nope because you're not a fan of tournaments? Or nope, you're not further along with your drawing. Because your drawing was looking ace. One of the few game systems I never got to go to a tournament for that I would have liked to go to a tournament for was called Wrath of Kings. That was another cool mini or not, which I suppose when that one had terrible distribution, I should have seen the writing on the wall for Game of Thrones, but I hoped Game of Thrones, because of its popularity, would give that shunt it needed. For a while, the only way that you could get stuff was from Russia. Can't do that now. Nope, because I've never participated in a tournament, even though I've been interested in it for a while now. Oh, you should absolutely go. The only risk you have is in the first games, you might be paired against someone that's way, way better than you or takes the game really seriously. But then, due to the way ranking works, the subsequent games after that will be, you know, sort of to the same skill level at the same people that, you know, sort of like to take the game easy. You're surprised how many people go to tournaments just to, you know, have fun and, you know, aren't necessarily trying to win. Matt, who I do the podcast with, is very much, as he likes to say it, middle to bottom table. As I said, it's just good opportunity to play against people that know what they're doing and want to play it. I've done one 3-day event. I'm never doing another one. Oh my goodness. It was awful. I was sharing a room with 4 other guys to keep the costs down, which meant that you didn't get particularly good sleep. And yeah, it was... you'd have one game sort of until like maybe early afternoon, like one game system, and you'd be trying to play 4 games at that, starting at like 7 a.m. and then in the afternoon you'd have a different game system. And then that was 3 days, and then I had to drive back as well. I was down in London. I will not be doing that again. I don't even know if I could face myself to, you know, do a 2-day system, let alone a 3-day one. 1 day. 1 day is a good amount, especially if you could just travel to it. But I would do a 2-1 for maybe like a regional. They do some over in America where you literally fly out and then never leave the hotel. I mean, ones like, for example, the Las Vegas Open. That seems crazy. Arena Rex, that's another one that I've never had a chance to go to a tournament for. That's the Gladiator game. Right, I own the miniatures just because I love gladiator models. But I wish they would do more of that. It's funny, the company has been going for an astonishingly long time. You rarely ever meet anyone that plays it, and yet they're still going strong, which is pretty cool. I do wonder if they're like kind of, you know, it's not their job per se, like it's sort of their side thing, and that would probably explain it. What do people think though? Do you think a game should ever die? Do you think, you know, the company should close it? I mean, obviously the one that's still fairly fresh in people's minds would be Guild Ball, where they decided that, you know what, there was nothing else to do and closed the game down. Which I think is incredible. Don't know if I've ever seen that before. I suppose you had Warhammer as well, didn't you? That sort of got closed down as well. To me, Steamforged, it was because they wanted to move towards the full Kickstarter model. Although they still do their God tier. Has anyone played God tier? One of the few skirmish games I've never played. Again, they're one that's based actually pretty near here. The Forge is on the west side of Manchester. I think it's the west side. It's not far away. But they sell all sorts, not just that. Speaking of cleaning stuff off, I think I just cut this horse's nose armor off. Whoops. It's another thing I'm mentioning in my video about building. You know, there's two different styles. Some people cut off a bit, clean it, glue it on. And some people, like me, cut everything out, clean everything, because they can't be bothered stopping and starting, and then live to completely regret it when you realise that you've no idea what each of the numbered pieces are. Although, in my defence, two of the worst ones I've ever done were not my fault. Bellicor, his left arm, the instructions are wrong. The Blood Knights, the original Blood Knights, the metal ones, they're wrong. But the worst one is the Death Guard. The Death Guard, it's tank, Plague Crawler. The tracts are, it tells you to put them on backwards. It's probably the number one thing that gets posted about in the Death Guard page. It's like, do these tracks look right to you? Nope. Well, not that I'm saying that's necessarily a reason to do what I do with cutting everything out. It's still very annoying. Fantastic. I guess next I will need to find some glue and get these guys all glued together. Next session I will hopefully have a lot of these already painted using those fast techniques, and hopefully I'll have a video out on next Wednesday all about that technique, or it will be something else, but there'll definitely be a video out next week. But thank you very much for joining me for another hobby evening. I hope you managed to get some hobbying done as well in the last 3 hours. No, I might be really bad at time. What did we do? We started at 19:30. It's now 22:30. Yeah, fantastic. Well, thank you very much for keeping me company. I hope you had a good evening, and I shall see you next week. Bye-bye.